Right, where were we? Chris's news sources. On Facebook, Chris routinely browses pages on LGBTQ culture, such as Lizzie the Leslie in the wake of the 2016 election. Many of those pages became inundated with articles written with a clear anti-Trump angle. It's not particularly hard to do, but I can see the point. Chris forms and reinforces his opinions on Trump based on those articles, rating many of them angry examples of the pages Chris reacted to when he can be seen both here and here. So we'll do the first one. LGBTQ Nation. Okay, Christine of Lizzie, and okay, that's the first one. Now here is the second one. Here it is. Wow, that's really small. Clean. Well, let's just go through each of these. Lizzie, fuck Jerry, Christine Weston Chandler, herself, Christine on what's this? Lizzie again. Okay, right, that makes sense. It's likely that Chris simply skims headlines or opening paragraphs without taking the time to read the articles. The second example was taken 1 hour after Chris posted to a Lizzie the Leslie comment section. Given that he is also busy with responding to its readers, it is impossible for him to have thoroughly read the articles. That Chris can't be bothered to learn about more is the issues he apparently feels so seized with emotion over is emblematic of his arrogance, stupidity, and laziness. Chris refuses to even try to understand the issues at hand, and so his understanding of Trump and American politics is consequently abysmal. Even of the things he's supposed to be interested in. Alec Benson Leary continues to prove the theory that Chris really does not put effort into anything he's ever tried. Chris has also cited an episode of The Simpsons as one of his major sources for being anti-Trump, which is appropriate considering one of the ways he wastes his time in lieu of acting like a functional adult. Anti-Trump petitions. Chris has signed several online petitions in an effort to prevent Trump from assuming the presidency. A petition opposing the anti-LGBTQ Russell Amendment. On January 20th, Donald Trump and Mike Pence are going to enter the White House. They campaigned on a platform of hatred, bigotry, racism, misogyny, and xenophobia. The Russell Amendment would reverse existing non-discrimination projections for 28 million people in the federal contracting workforce. That means employers could fire someone who refused to give them a job because they have a same-sex partner, use birth control or are a single mother, are transgender, or even simply don't practice the same religion as their employer. Of course, Chris supported this petition, probably because it disparages Trump and references the transgender community. It's unlikely he actually read or understood its contents. A petition calling on the Electoral College to disregard the election and install Hillary Clinton into the presidency. This is something that literally never would have happened, but Chris had also cited this petition in the hopes that on the 19th of December 2016, the Electoral College would ignore the results of the 2016 presidential election since Clinton won the popular vote. This did not happen. Death threats. Chris's hatred of Trump is so great that he made 4 videos of himself role-playing acts of violence on him with Transformers, My Little Pony, and Lego toys, with 2 of those occurring before the election, including one where he destroyed a Transformers toy, further showing his lack of financial sense. Timeline. On the 9th of November 2016, Chris began making several enraged death threats against then-President-elect. He continued his tirade in the following days, adding Vice President Mike Pence to his death threats on the 10th of November, in spite of the possibility that it could land him in very serious legal trouble, on the grounds of treason and instilling death threats, and possibly hate speech as well. According to United States Code, a threat against the president is punishable by a fine and/or a maximum of 5 years in prison. Chris has gotten himself into legal trouble multiple times in the past, to the point that he has 6 misdemeanors on his record, with 4 of those stemming from assault crimes. He is also having financial trouble. Despite Chris's repeated calls from Trump and Pence to die, they made it unscathed through their 4-year terms. Given that Chris's address is public knowledge, the possibility of the Secret Service visiting and interrogating him for threats and then forcing him to not divulge anything should not be ruled out. To that I have to say, if they haven't done anything about this before, why on earth are they going to do about it now that Trump is out of office? 2016, November 9th, 3:28 a.m. Chris posts on Facebook, probably when he should be asleep, that he wants someone to assassinate Trump with a sniper rifle. Chris's Twitter account automatically tweets the post. Throughout the day, many high-profile Twitter users retweet the post. Several Twitter users say that they reported him to the FBI and the Secret Service. 3:39 a.m. Chris uploads a YouTube video depicting him smashing a Transformers toy in effigy of Trump while screaming, "Die." 3:40 a.m. Chris posts on Facebook again. He links to the YouTube video and says Trump should die now, before taking office. The post is also tweeted by his Twitter account. 5:15 a.m. The sniper rifle death threat disappears from Facebook. 8:30 a.m. An Infowars.com article, this is one run by Alex Jones, featuring Chris's death threat in tweet form is published. 11 p.m. The same threat disappears from Twitter. We don't know whether or not this was forced by administrators or whether or not Chris somehow did it himself. And this was also by a former Grand Wizard even retweeted this post as well. David Allen Duke, I think it was, saying that this is reason enough to say that the lefties are going to start rioting in the streets. And also, in case for those who don't know, a Grand Wizard is a leader of the Ku Klux Klan. So, make of that what you will. 10th of November, 4:07 a.m. Chris tweets the Infowars article. 4:23 a.m. Chris tweets that he wants his audience to join him in wishing death to the then President-elect Trump before January 2017. 6:53 p.m. Chris again tweets to pray for Trump's death. He also prays for then Vice President Mike Pence's death. He then links to a petition from Credo Action concerning the anti-LGBTQ Russell Amendment. November 13th, 2:06 a.m. Chris uploads a YouTube video in which he uses Legos to roleplay Mike Pence murdering Trump and getting arrested. He then holds up a sheet of paper with the handwritten words backwards and facing him. Before January 2017, Die Trump Die, or by illness by Mike Pence's hand. 2:36 a.m. Chris posts on Facebook about being annoyed by leftover Trump-Pence campaign signs. It is unknown whether or not Chris will take down the signs himself. 5:06 a.m. Chris posts on Facebook, linking to the Infowars article. He then tries to justify his behavior by saying, "I'm not the only one who wants him dead." But Chris, you made this very loud and clear on, social media, so of course people are going to see it. 9:17 p.m. Chris posts to the Lizzie the Leslie comment section asking the readers to pray for Trump and Pence's deaths before Thanksgiving. Many people respond, trying to talk sense into him, to no avail. November 14th, 12:53 p.m. Chris posts a picture to Facebook depicting Lego versions of Trump and Pence being executed by hanging while handcuffed. The text on the photo reads, "Die Trump die, die Pence die. We do not want either of you in office. Jail for you both is unlikely. We, the LGBTQ community, do not want to lose our protection and rights." 1:16 p.m. Chris follows up by commenting that, since prison is unlikely and impeachment is difficult, then death upon those two before January 2017. At this time, the point is a necessary evil. 3:07 p.m. Chris posts saying Trump is not president, mayor, or anything in Quickville. 7:30 p.m. The execution by hanging post and the associated comments disappear from Facebook. November 15th, 10:44 p.m. Chris announces Facebook had temporarily banned him for posting for a week. I wonder why, Chris. I have absolutely not the foggiest idea. November 20th, 5 a.m. Chris, in a 22-tweet long rant, makes several childish insults and says he had given his issues and feelings of Trump some thought. He claims that they are justified. He ends his rant by complaining about Twitter's 140-character limit. December 2nd, 5:51 p.m. Chris uploads Alpha Trion Young Warrior Challenge Explained. He roleplays Trump, Pence, and Clinton using Legos. So advocate the office Trump, advocate the position, and then maybe I'll take you down off of that noose. December 29th, 1:11 a.m. Chris returns to posting death threats against Donald Trump on Facebook in response to an article on Trump and the First Amendment Defense Act. Chris commented, "Advocate the office Trump or die Trump die." 1:43 a.m. Chris posts a puzzler for Trump. He asks Trump to consider a scenario wherein there is an alternate reality where everyone is gender flipped and an anti-straight law is proposed. He asked if Trump would support a law that is against the Donald Trump et of that world. He ends by threatening Trump again. Hashtag Donald Trump, advocate the office and let Hillary Clinton run this country. For the love of religion and for any shred of self-love you have for yourself, or die from yours or someone else's hands. Chris later proofread both posts, editing advocate to abdicate. However, he did not tone down the death threats. January 4th, 2017, 8:34 a.m. Chris tweets the link for his puzzler to Trump's Twitter account, with the death threats still intact. 6:03 p.m. For the second time, Chris tweets his puzzler to Trump. January 20th, 10:54 p.m. Chris reacts to news on the inauguration of President Trump on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. He insists that the USA has no president or vice president, taking the hashtag #NotMyPresident hashtag a step further by stating that he will see an empty chair with no audible speech whatsoever. To cap it off, he says his mind will not be changed until either Trump and Pence leave voluntarily or they are both deceased. Chris on his death threats. Chris has attempted to rationalize his constant calls. Chris has attempted to rationalize his constant calls for Trump and Pence's deaths, and to reconcile his violent attitude with him being bothered that he has to resort to death wishing on anyone. After Chris suggested to the readers of Lizzie the Leslie, a LGBTQ Facebook page, to wish death on Trump and Pence, they instead criticized him for saying such stupid things. One person said, wishing death on people you don't like doesn't exactly make you look like a better person in comparison. Chris replied by saying that, with Trump and Pence in office, it would then be difficult to impeach them and get Hillary in. Not really, answering the question, but there you are. Chris has shifted on how he wants Trump to die. Upon learning of the election results, he wanted someone to kill Trump with a sniper rifle. The next day, he asked God to do it. Days later, he wanted Mike Pence to murder him. He also believed it was possible that Trump would die from old age before Inauguration Day, and that Clinton would not, since men die earlier than women. Inexplicably, Chris also wants science to kill Trump. Chris has considered the notion of Trump and Pence going to prison, but has concluded that prison is unlikely for them. How difficult impeachment is. What other option is there? He believes Trump should be jailed for all of his sexual assaults and rape on women. He would prefer Trump and Pence to simply hand over their democratically elected positions, saying to give the role of president with the most civil grace to Hillary Clinton. And since that is most bloody unlikely of Trump ever, I am still most pained to continue having to pray for Trump and Pence's deaths to happen before January 2017, by someone else's hands or illness. Chris further demonstrated his lack of political understanding in a post on the 4th of December, in which he said that Trump should advocate the position and take Pence with him, and let Hillary be president, as it should very well be. Chris likely has the word advocate confused with abdicate, which is a term he might have heard in British TV shows. It's a term typically used in reference to a monarchy. Due to his stubbornness, Chris has refused to budge from his anti-Trump positions, even after Lizzie the Leslie's readers and his Facebook friends criticized him for his repeated death threats. On the 20th of November, he stated, "I have given my issues and feelings of Trump some thought. They are justified," followed by saying, "As much as I would like to choose to be red-necked and stubborn enough to plead complete ignorance and utter denial of him and Pence, not only on the verge of taking office, there is still too many damn visuals about the bastards that plain further frustrate and upset me." Unfortunately for Chris, he simply forms his opinions via skimming clickbait articles whose authors are inclined to disagree with Trump. Due to his untreated autism, he hasn't attempted to do any research of his own on what Trump and Pence have actually said. Instead, he opts to live on in willful ignorance, putting no effort into enriching himself with knowledge and getting fanatically emotionally distraught about matters he barely understands. It's to the point that he believed death upon Trump and Pence before January 2017 at this time and point was a necessary evil. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the entire Trump article as part of one of the many things that causes Chris stress. I like to imagine it's another form of Chris's, idiotic and dangerous side to his violence, is that his hatred to Trump. I'd imagine that his hatred towards Trump is actually no better, in fact, even slightly worse than his hatred of homosexual men. Because when you think about it, his hatred towards homosexual men he means that in a very broad sense, as in somehow any man who happens to be gay is immediately demonized. This is despite the fact that Chris doesn't know anything about them, with the exception of a few people. Apparently he doesn't hate Stephen Fry just because he narrates Little Big Planet. I know that thought disgustes me as well, but what really, really, I think tips the scales in this case is that, and I don't really want to use that term anyway, because it's not fair for, gay people to be demonized by the likes of Chris, for Chris to, in his comics, to come up with a cure for homosexuality, just because there would be less risk of gay people going to hell. His words, not mine. But that Chris violently prays for Trump to be murdered and to die. His disdain for somebody he has never met in person, for somebody he actually knows very, very little about. Just all that matters to Chris is that he gets his own way. And I'll bring it back to you what it said at the bottom here. Frustrate and upset me. That's always been the problem when it comes down to Chris and his untreated autism. It's always about him. It's not about other people. Listen, I'm not American, so, my influence about, for the things I vote, for the things I say about, so regarding US politics, are extremely finite and extremely limited anyway, from only just based on what I actually do know about American politics. But then again, listen, guys, I'm from the UK. I know more about British politics. I know about the stuff that goes on in this country. And I certainly will say this, is that anyone, I think, who openly makes death threats on social media, I think there should be far more activity in getting those sort of people arrested, because distributing death threats, not just to politicians, not just just to everyone else, is that if you make death threats on social media to anyone, that's it. You should be, in my opinion, sent to prison, because forget the fact, things about free speech and all that. You're actually suggesting that someone should die for whatever reason. Particularly in the case of Chris, it's just because Trump exists and he is apparently not Hillary Clinton. Now, with that being said, I don't particularly disagree that there are a lot of people, part of the LGBT community, or straight or otherwise, who were not particularly very happy with Trump anyway. But the fact remains is that more often than more people than not must have been at least kind of happy because Trump won the election. Whether you want to say this is because Trump had a pretty weak opponent in the eyes of Hillary Clinton or not, I'll leave that for you to decide, and for something that historians will probably discuss 40 years into the future. Speaking of 40 years into the future, where I don't believe Chris will reach the age of 79, it'll be very, very interesting to see exactly how well Chris's opinions do hold up. If they won't hold up good before, they certainly will not be in many years. There'll probably be a president who will come along who will put forward this idea of a social studies class where they discuss exactly what you do not do on the internet, what you don't say, and how you should not act and respond to things. And Chris will probably be the figurehead of such a class like that. And don't say it isn't impossible either, because I've heard of some much weirder things being taught in schools, so why not? Makes about as much sense as anything else. So guys, I hope all of you guys have enjoyed this article on Pmurt by Chris, or by this Chris Chan article on Pmurt, and I will hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care, bye bye for now.